amazing Australians and the story of their lives. You're tuned to Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald.
Hello and welcome, listeners. My guest today is internationally acclaimed businessman John Maloney, who has become legally blind in later life and has developed aids to help him navigate life in his business and everyday world. Welcome, John. Before we discuss these aids, I'm sure our listeners would love to learn a bit more about your early life. I believe you commenced working in the family rural operation, so tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Thanks, Rosemary. The family originated into Australia in 1853. Thomas Moloney came from Knocklong in County Limerick, where the family had a very successful horse stud called Bridge House. Thomas had a hotel in a place called Hospital near Knocklong.
All right, yes.
And then came to Australia in a ship called the Australia, of all things, and settled near what is now Moree, and opened a hotel and also a change station for Cobb & Co. And these were 14 miles apart, and he had a couple of those. 1861 was always his desire to buy land. He bought what is now Newlaman for £2 an acre, and it was the first freehold place in northern New South Wales under the John Robertson Land Act. So I suppose with that heritage I was meant to be on the land.
Yes.
Came home after 9 years at boarding school. I had a couple of years with the governors first, and then 9 years in primary and secondary boarding school, and then worked on the family place. After about a year, I was lucky enough to, we then bought another place, my brother and I, west of Moree. After 6 years of that, I thought there must be more to life than this. I packed up my gear and jumped off a wheat harvester header and headed to London. And I think I must be one of the few backpackers to take a dinner suit, but
All right.
I just wanted to be ready for any occasion. But so I came home. Things didn't. I married a girl I met in England, an Australian girl.
Oh, yes.
We came back. Things weren't all that good, I suppose, between my father and I, and he probably had good reason to.
It's often difficult, isn't it? The son being on the farm and with different ideas and that.
Well, it is.
Yes.
And it is, and I'd probably been a bit wayward, and so I headed to Canberra, where I worked in the public service in agriculture and CSIRO.
Yes.
And also studied, doing an applied science degree, and played rugby. Having a ball, decided the public service probably wasn't for me, and I joined ICI Rural, which was in English a huge monolith, chemical industry. And again, still lived in Canberra, still had a great life of rugby and good fellowship. And then ICI decided I should go back to Moree and become their cotton expert. And I must say it was met with a fair bit of resistance.
Right.
But not knowing anything about cotton, it was a challenge.
I would imagine it would. Just quickly, because we'll come back to this later, of course, but you did say that your father suffered from macular degeneration, which is what you've got. So was he suffering from it at that stage? Or?
No, he wasn't. My uncle, though, Dad's brother, he developed it very early. He was only around about 35. He was a bachelor. Didn't stop him driving his Land Rover. But it threatened to everyone else,
right.
Particularly when he left the Burren Junction Hotel.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So my grandmother also had it. So it's genetic and hereditary, yeah.
But now, which is a hard, waiting, not knowing whether it's going to be hereditary, which, as we talked about earlier on, is the hard part as well. But sadly, you were the one that inherited. But you haven't let it stop you, John, because then you were co-director for Australia and New Zealand of 2 USA-based companies. So how was that?
I was seeing ophthalmologists, and there was no apparent sign of it. That was an experience. I ran a company called DeKalb Genetics, based out of Chicago, for Australia and New Zealand. It was sold to Monsanto, and then I opened in Brisbane here a specialist agricultural agribusiness recruitment company, and in the end was travelling every 2 weeks to the rest of the world doing search for some very big Swiss companies involved in agriculture.
So it was a recruitment basically for the agricultural industry.
It was, yes, yeah. And they were pretty high level. And then I was actually headhunted by another American company, that the biggest cottonseed company in the world, called Delta Pine.
Right.
They were based in Mississippi. So you can imagine the difference in the culture, Mississippi to Illinois.
I would have certainly.
That was different. Yeah. And that company was using genetically modified product developed by Monsanto, and they actually bought that company also.
So when did you get into the brewing business? Because I just love the name, the Sow and Piglets Brew Pub. So tell us about how you got into the brewing, and then a little bit about the Sow and Piglets.
Oh, so sure. I did start another recruiting company after that, based on corporate agriculture and supplying short-term people. And together with my wife, Marion, and some very loyal staff, we built that business up very quickly, and were bought out by a public company from South Africa. And Marion thought we were going to retire to Brisbane, and she's younger than I, originally from the Netherlands, and likes to have a crack. So she'd always wanted to have a hostel. And after search, I found this one in Port Campbell, which is 12 kilometres from the 12 Apostles.
Right, in Victoria.
In Victoria. And the attraction, Rosemary, was that there were 2.5 million tourists go to that area every year. Port Campbell is a fishing village of around 260 people. The surf club had built this, they'd had a hostel there for 60 years. They decided to lash out after they'd been thrown out of the YHA and show them how to build a proper hostel. And they built this monolith, 110 people, guests.
Yes.
And everyone in the surf club knew how to run a hostel. And, of course, it was a disaster. And when we bought it, it was described as a prison or a hospital. But Marion turned it around.
Not very enticing.
Not very enticing, but a challenge.
Yeah.
So Marion turned it around within a year to be number 3 in Australia.
Oh, wow.
But at the same time, there was an opportunity to look at, the back deck, we'd been sold a bit of a pup, and the back deck was actually falling down, so I thought, I'll build a brewery.
Right.
So I went to America, to Philadelphia, then San Diego, and then came back, did a short course at Adelaide to learn a bit more about the science.
Yes.
A friend of mine here, Justin O'Neill's an architect in Brisbane. He came down and designed a pretty smick little brewery. And then I set about recruiting, and I found...
A wonderful German.
Well, Julian Madeira,
yes.
And Julian is probably he's certainly well qualified, which is a bit strange in Australia. We don't really have the tertiary courses for brewing.
Right.
And he set about brewing some extraordinary beers. And
it's been a huge success.
Well, it has. And the Sow and Piglets actually came about.
I was going to say, how did you come up with that lovely name?
Well, I'd have to...
I used to breed little piglets, I might add.
Right.
In Tasmania many years ago.
Well, the Sow and Piglets is the original name of the 12 Apostles.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And George Bass in 1798, travelling around Australia, came across them. And a large island he called the Sow, and then the pillars, the limestone pillars, and there's never been 12, yes. He called the Piglets.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, there you go. Yes.
Well, that stayed till 1922, and then they must have had a religious fervour somewhere and called it the 12 Apostles.
Oh, right. So, not nearly as...
No,
as much fun.
No.
Earlier on, you told me that you're obviously in brewing in quite a big way, John, because you've got a brewery now out at Boona.
Oh, no, we don't own it. We build breweries.
Yeah, oh, that's what I mean. Sorry, you built one out at Boona. Yeah.
So what happened, we built another brewery at Coorimundle, which is just out of Port Campbell, with the view to building a very smick restaurant and brewery in Port Campbell itself. And unfortunately, in 2018, that's when I was diagnosed with macula, and my ophthalmologist told me to go back where I came from. So we had a brewery that we didn't really know what to do with, so we then built another brewery at Lancefield with some investors.
Landsfield where?
North of Melbourne,
Oh,
about
right,
45 miles out.
Yep.
And it's a very smart building, a restaurant,
Yes.
5 chefs, and Julian runs that brewery as well as the Sour and Piglets. And then in 2020, the Chinese came to us and said, look, COVID, we can't send our Chinese people out to build the breweries we sell, Tea and Thai being the company. And they asked us to do the project management. We built a brewery in Yamba for the boys down there who had the backpackers there, which has been a huge success. And I said to Julian, I think we have a business here. So we went from there. We've now built 10 breweries.
Oh, really? 10 around Australia?
Yep. And distilleries now, we're doing distilleries. Our latest one, we built one here at Ann Street, opened Munir Ibrahim owns that, and that's down at 80 Ann Street, called Little Miss Sunshine, and it's underneath the Suncorp building there, and a really smart whiskey bar Munir has there. And then we just completed and opened about a month ago a brewery for the Ganem Group based out at Boona, which is called Boona Brewery.
Oh, okay. Well, you would have had a few Lions, I would imagine, come in recently, or Lion supporters.
Well, yes.
I would think so.
Well, they I saw a show the other day between two
This
posts.
is the rugby Lions, I might add.
Yeah. Well, between two posts,
You're a tragic.
I am. They interviewed a publican in Melbourne, and apparently when they were here 12 years ago, they drank Melbourne dry. And this time he doubled his order, and he was still running on empty.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I couldn't get over the crowds in all the red. And sadly, we got pipped to the post, didn't we, at the last minute? I think a little bit unjustly, but never mind.
Still a big improvement on where we were 2 years ago, Rosemary.
Exactly, that's right, yes.
Great coach.
Yes. No, I agree. Now, you're listening to Lots to Chat About. I'm Rosemary Peterswald, and my guest today is international businessman John Maloney, who has become legally blind later in life. Now, John, we talked briefly before about how you discovered that you did have this hereditary macular degeneration. So it obviously would have been a very difficult diagnosis to get, and not being able to drive, as you said, was one of the hardest things. So we're going to talk about a few of the aids that you do use, and Paul can join in here too if he likes, because as I said, our listeners know Paul is blind. But yes, so what was that first 6 months like?
Well, I suppose not being able to drive
Yes.
was difficult, and that's why we came back to Brisbane and purchased in Tenerife just before COVID, which was fortunate, real estate-wise. But, and I've got a lot of good friends around. They pick me up.
Yeah.
And, look, things could be worse, Rosemary. There's a lot of people worse off than I am. And I guess one of the advantages of being in small business myself, on a number of occasions, I've always had to be a bit tech savvy. And I've always believed that technology would help. And there's no cure for dry eye at the moment. There are 2 products in America now that have been okayed by the FDA there, Food and Drug. We're waiting on the TGA to approve those. One's by a company called Apellis. I actually did the pilot trials for that from America. I didn't get into the final round, but there's 57 new products now in the pipeline for dry eye.
So dry eye, which I suffer from dry eye, I think a lot of older people do, that's obviously different to macular degeneration.
Oh, well, no, there's 2 sorts of macula.
Oh, right,
there's
sorry.
wet eye.
Oh, right.
Which is a bleeding behind the eye,
Yes.
and there is an injection for that now, and that stops the bleeding. And people go back regularly and have a needle through the eye, which sounds gruesome, but not. The dry eye is a different variation. You just lose your sight slowly. With wet eye, you can lose it dramatically, but with dry eye, it's just a gradual. Within the first year, I dropped 50% of my central vision.
I'm looking at you now, John, and you were explaining to us earlier. You've got these incredible glasses. Paul, we were talking about it before, weren't we? So can you just tell us a little bit more about those that you're wearing?
Sure. Okay, these particular, and I've tried a few glasses around. They're mainly developed for the people with disability and very expensive, up to $14,000. I tried some on in South Australia at the Blind Society. I bought some from America, it didn't work. So I was sitting watching Mark Zuckerberg at a conference in December when he released the second stage of Ray-Ban Meta. And the Meta obviously is the Facebook derivative of Zuckerberg's, where he had partnered with a software company called Be My Eyes. Now, Be My Eyes, I downloaded that when I was in London this time last year, as I'd heard about it, and it's volunteers around the world who come in on your WhatsApp and through your camera can assist you. And if you want to have a really good look at how Mark Zuckerberg has now incorporated that into these Series 2 glasses,
right,
have a look at the Ray-Ban Meta website where he shows a blind girl, completely blind, talking to Be My Eyes, and she's getting dressed to go to a dance. And it talks about, the Be My Eyes, the person, the
yes.
volunteer comes on, talks about the lipstick that are going to suit her, the clothing that's going to suit, and they'll take you to airports, help
yes.
you out, and there's 8,200,000 volunteers in the world now.
Right.
So I thought there's something serious going on here. So I was down in Port Campbell, came back, and I went across. Dennis Durin has a optical business in the gasworks called Oki and Otto, I think it is.
I will read that. Oki and Oro.
Oro, yes.
Yes, optometrist.
An optometrist. Yep. Now, Megan's the person there to speak to. And I'd just gone across to tighten up the frames of my existing glasses, and I saw a banner. They had my prescription. She measured me. I have transitional lenses here, so they'll in sunlight they become sunglasses.
Yes.
I do have a slight bit of central vision, so I have prescription lenses in here that help a bit. And the beauty that's made the Series 2 so superior to the first set that he brought out is AI. So now when you talk to the glasses, it has speakers, 12 speakers around the frame.
Right.
It has the earphones are in the pads on the side of the frames internally, and that's where you pick up your speech from.
Right.
The AI is very well developed, getting better, but the main thing here is that there's a little button there.
Right.
That's
John is pointing to a little button on the side of his glasses there. Yeah.
So that button there controls. I push it once, it takes a photo.
Right.
If I push it twice, it'll do a 3-minute video. So, for example, with AI, the 3 things I hate in life before these was going, first of all, to a restaurant. I'd sit there and see what everyone else ate, then I'd order the most popular.
I'll have what he's having or she's having.
And then if they didn't have ham and cheese and tomato toasty, I was buggered.
Yeah.
Then the other one is supermarkets, where trying to read labels was absolutely hopeless. I'd get my camera out and try and take a photo and then read it back through a thing called Seeing AI and other software. The other one is airports.
Oh, yes.
And now...
Hard enough at the best of times, even if you've got full sight.
Well, now, Rosemary, with these glasses now, I just say, I have to say, hey, but I won't do it now because it'll turn on. But I say, Meta, look and tell me the next Virgin flight from Melbourne to Brisbane.
Isn't that extraordinary?
I could be 100 metres away from the board. There could be 100 flights on the board.
Right.
It'll pick that flight out for me. And then now with the latest software, 16.1, I can now walk through the terminal and it'll then talk to me and tell me when I'm getting near gate 39.
Right, isn't it? They're extraordinary. Paul, had you heard of those?
I have heard of them, Rosemary. I just haven't got the money at the moment and I'm not on the NDIS. So, but I certainly need them for airports particularly as well because they're very difficult when you're totally blind to navigate around.
It's very, very, very difficult. There's no doubt. Do you think, John, that they ever will become available to people who haven't got that sort of money to spend on them?
Well, actually, Rosemary, you can buy these for $450.
Oh, really? Right, right.
Without the prescription or the transitional.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Which makes, they weren't actually developed for people with low visibility.
Yes.
They were just an all-day, everyday, and that's I mean, people with disability, things are expensive,
Yes.
very expensive, but this was run-of-the-mill, and that's what's made them, obtainable for a lot of people. But the other thing that I find amazing, so people over 70 shouldn't climb ladders, but if I'm in Port Campbell and my brewer happens to be, say, at Lancefield, and we've got a brew down, I need to get up, read the fermentation. I get a ladder, climb it, take a photo, and send that to Julian.
Who is your brewer?
Brewer. Mm-hmm. Now I call Julian on WhatsApp, and when he comes on the line, I push that video twice, and he sees exactly what I see. I
Isn't
walk
that
around.
extraordinary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Extraordinary aid. I think I need a pair of those for the airport bus. Now, tell us a little bit about Dictate Pro too, because that's another aid you use, isn't it? And do you use that, Paul?
Haven't heard of that one. I'll be looking it up.
Yeah, we'll get John to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, when I was doing a lot of headhunting, I used to use Dragon Pro, which is a speech-to-text, when I was doing interviews, etc., overseas, and send them back. And it was amazing. Microsoft now bought it. Doctors and lawyers use it a lot, I think. In Australia, it's pretty hard to get mainline. The Apple accessibility that I use, an Apple phone, it has voice to text also and text to voice. And I find that I can't actually put in commonly used words.
Okay.
Whereas, say, in Dragon Speak, you'd read a book to it, and that had every word that you needed. And then I was doing work for Swiss companies, and the lawyer's name was Pierre-Etienne Boyne. I'd put that in there, and when I spoke that, it came out perfectly. With the Dictate Pro, which is $9 a month, there is a free one called Dictate, but you can add to your library of words or dictionary of words. And I find the errors there because people get a bit of a kick out of some of my SMSs.
Right.
Because,
well, I think everybody gets a kick out of everyone's SMSs.
Well, mine are pretty hopeless
with words
sometimes.
Jumping in and changing words.
Yeah, whereas I find with Dictate Pro, it's generally correct. And so I find that really, it's not as tiresome for people because it stops the laughter also when they ring you.
Exactly, that's right. Now, since Voice Dream Reader, that's a different thing, isn't it? Which was released in 2012. I think you received requests for a Mac version more often than any other platform. And then you said nearly 10 years later, you were excited to announce that Voice Dream Reader for Mac OS is now generally available. So tell us more about that.
Well, when you go to... Say I'm using my accessibility on my Apple. Yeah. I have a little arrow in the corner and I push it. There's an arrow there, a solid arrow, or just a hand. Now, if I want to hear the whole text of, say, a website, I push the solid arrow. It'll read through in a website. It'll read everything on that page. I get the lot. So after about 2 minutes, you might get to the text.
Right.
With Voice Dream, you go in, you select Voice Dream, push the web page to Voice Dream. It then takes out all photos and any ads, and it just reads it back to you straight away. It's perfect.
Now, Paul, we were talking a little bit earlier on, and I know you use quite a few aids as well, but you do a lot by sound, don't you?
I certainly do, Rosemary. I use VoiceOver for Apple iPhone as well. I've got a computer that's Windows, so I'm a little bit of both worlds, but everything I do is by sound, so I'll be certainly looking up some. I've heard of Voice Dream Reader. I haven't heard of Dictate Pro, so I'll be looking up that one. So, I mean, the world of technology is improving every day, isn't it? And I think you started working on Mac version in 2019, John, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's right, yes.
Yeah. Now, John has also showed me a lanyard that he wears. If you arrive in an airport, you said you put that on, and people immediately know that you are sight impaired and come to your aid. Now, that would be a terrific thing to have.
Well, it is, Rosemary, and I was coming back from London, sitting next to a chap, and we got down to the carousel, and as Paul knows, it's hard to find your luggage.
Yes.
Marion bought me some July luggage, and the early versions have a big orange band around them,
right,
which helps. And he said, "What's the problem?" I said, "I've got macular." He said, "So's my wife." And he said, "Have you got the sunflower lanyard?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he said, "Well, we'll go up to Qantas and get it." And the sunflower lanyard is just a lanyard with sunflowers on it, developed in Glasgow, and as soon as you go into one of the airlines, they identify that as that it was for people who have an impairment,
Yes.
but look regular.
Yes, well, that's right. Because I said to John, people probably would not pick up that you are blind.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
So they see this, they come straight to your aid, they'll book you in,
Yes.
they take your luggage over, put it through into the belt. Then if you need, they will take you down. If you really want to, they'll put you through the staff, through when you don't have to go through the huge lines to get through security.
Right.
And they'll call you out on the plane and help you all the way. And it's fantastic.
That's
really,
wonderful.
yeah.
Really wonderful too. Now, could I borrow that?
Yeah. I told my children I'd leave it to the best in my will.
It sounds, doesn't it, Paul? It sounds like a wonderful.
Certainly does. If you
aid.
don't have a cane or anything, I carry a white cane, so
Yes.
Right.
there's my jaws speaking in the background, which I'll try and silence. Yeah, I carry a white cane, so I'm pretty visible.
Right.
But if you don't, then
Yes.
you do have some vision. It's certainly something that's worth looking at for anybody.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think it's a wonderful aid. Now, John, what's sort of in the future for you, and what aid for any other aids that you think might be coming online, but also your business?
Yeah, okay. Well, look, I've got a very good brewer, Julian.
Yes.
Julian's now a partner in 3 of the businesses. He's in Lancefield. His family bought into the Sow and Piglets.
Yes.
And he and I have the consultancy recruiting business. And it gives me an interest. I still manage to get around and sign documents and haven't gone to jail yet.
Yeah.
But
You have a full life.
well, I do. I
Yes.
do. And, unfortunately, a lot of people who end up with macula end up depressed. And I think the figure's 95%.
Right, I can imagine so.
And
yeah.
I think, and it's apparently, unfortunately, the awareness is often not there.
Yes.
And I do find some of the aids that are readily available aren't known to a lot of people. And how that gets across, I don't know the easy way to do that.
Right.
But it's certainly, there's a lot of stuff coming on still now. If I look, Zuckerberg's releasing Series 3 in the Ray-Bans. He's just the Oakley, which is owned by Ray-Ban. And interesting, Zuckerberg has bought into that company, which is an Italian-French company, huge. They
Right.
own OPSM, for example. And Zuckerberg, his next release, which should be October, will be more expensive.
Right.
But it'll have a lot more aids in it, getting more into actual reality type stuff. For example, there is talk of having facial recognition, which would be an incredible thing because
Yes.
we don't see faces.
No.
But, with peripheral, you can see the side, but you don't see a face.
Yes.
And you depend a lot on hearing. But the other things that'll be there, you'll have a screen on the right lens.
Yeah. That sounds good. I'm just looking at our clock, actually, John. So
right.
sadly, we've come to the end of our recording time at here. But just what basically you're saying is that there are a lot more things in the pipeline,
My
aren't
word.
there?
My
Yeah.
word, yep.
And
Yes.
surely Elon will come up with something,
Well,
won't he?
well, he's got a phone now, I see.
Yes, well, that's right. I think something I read today, that some sort of brain implant or something that he's doing as well. But sadly, we will have to finish up now. But I'd love to have you back at some stage, and we can talk about further inventions that come online. But thank you, John Maloney, for being our guest today and sharing with us life in your business world, but also coping with sort of a late diagnosis of macular degeneration, because I'm sure many of our listeners who are sight impaired would be fascinated to hear about the aids that you use. So thank you very much for being my guest today. Thank you, Paul, for being part of it and for producing.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
this program has been recorded in the studios of 4RPH Reading Radio in Brisbane for syndication around Australia.
Great friends and great chats. That was another Lots to Chat About with Rosemary Peterswald. Stay tuned next week for another amazing chat.